Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is to help you create an ecosystem of academic excellence through inspiring conversations, practical strategies, and actionable insights. We empower educators, change makers, and leaders just like yourself, create and foster an environment of excellence through creating an ecosystem of academic excellence. This, hands down, is the hardest episode I've ever been able to record. And before even going live, it's taken me 4 or 5 additional attempts to get to even this point of 45 seconds within the recording. And the reason why is because I didn't want to do it. And one of the things that I recognize on why we don't succeed as individuals is when moments like this, when it gets hard, when it gets difficult, when we're tired, when our schedule feels overwhelming, when there's things happening within our relationship that may feel emotionally exhausting, when we get bad news, or when we look at certain areas of our life and we're thinking about those things more than we think about the goals, we stop showing up. But 40 days ago, I committed to something. I committed to not just my audience online and saying that, hey, for the rest of this year, I'm going to release a podcast episode every single day. But I committed to myself. And I think a lot of times we marry other people's expectations without honoring the commitments that we make to ourselves. And one of the things that I learned from a mentor, a friend, and a colleague of mine, Jacob Brown, is that it is uncomfortable to stay comfortable. And oftentimes we have this perspective of get comfortable being uncomfortable. But the reality of it is if we look at our situations, if we look at our lives, if we look at the car that we drive, or the relationship that we're in, or the house that we live in, or the things that we're not able to do because of our status, because of our economic status, because of our finances, because of our emotions, because of our capacity, all of these different things, we're not comfortable. And it's very uncomfortable on a daily basis. But what happens is that we set a goal and we get so excited to the point where we're even telling other people, we tell our friends, we tell our family, we announce it online, and we talk about all of these different things that we want to accomplish. And when it gets tough, we don't have people to hold us accountable. And when it's gotten tough, even recording this episode, I didn't want to have to call on my people to motivate me and encourage me and share a word or pray with me and all of these different things, because it's me versus me. And if you don't get anything from this episode today, what I want you to recognize is this: it's you versus you. And if your accountability partner doesn't pick up the phone, if your prayer partner doesn't answer your FaceTime, if you pray and you still don't have the words to be able to use, if you journal and you have notes in front of you, but it just doesn't feel like your voice, the goal of this episode is to tell you to still show up. The goal of this episode is to say that somebody's destiny is waiting on your obedience. The goal of this episode is to tell you that this uncomfortable time is going to be the very moment that you talk about as a testimony in 5 years when you make it, when you accomplish that goal. Your obedience is attached to somebody else's destiny. So if you choose to not show up today because you're a little bit uncomfortable, because you're a little bit tired, because it's been a tough day, because you want to move things around, and if you take a step away from your goal, I can guarantee that's one step closer to failure. I decided to use the rest of this year to release episodes. And I told myself that there was a multitude of reasons why I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this from one perspective because I felt like it would be a great lead generator to be able to create content, to be able to share my message, to be able to talk about contagious culture, to be able to talk about all of these amazing things. But I also wanted to be able to produce my first 50 episodes before we started to bring in guests and all of these various people, because I often felt that we hide behind guests and we're not able to really produce value and share our thoughts. I believe that if you're a thought leader, you should never run out of thoughts. And if you're reading books and going to conferences and having and creating experiences, that you should be able to show up. But there's sometimes, even when you have the notes, even when you have the experiences, even when you have all of those different things, that you still just can't find the energy, you can't find the spark, and you can't find the momentum to just get started. So after 8 attempts of recording today, I'm just getting started. And even though we are 55 episodes into the Contagious Culture podcast, and we're in 13 countries, and we have a whole bunch of downloads. I don't know the exact number right now, but we have downloads, we have likes, we have subscribes, we have shares, we have all of these different people that are invested in our show on a daily basis now that we've been able to build up the momentum. I could not dishonor the commitment that I made for myself. I cannot dishonor the commitment that I made to you listening. So I'm going to just talk about where I'm at and what it took for me to just show up. Today has been a crazy day. I got up 3 o'clock in the morning and started literally working immediately. Well, showered, got into work mode, was working until around 1 o'clock. Then I had a podcast episode scheduled for 2 with a potential guest. That was an amazing episode. We got through that. I had another call at 3 o'clock, had another meeting at 4 o'clock. And I told myself that I wanted to at least get 3 episodes done prior to 6 o'clock. Now it's coming on 6 o'clock now, and I'm now on the first episode, and we're a few minutes into the first episode. And I told myself, like, hey, we had my co-host, we were supposed to film at 5. She got stuck in traffic. That got pushed to 5:20. We moved that whole recording schedule to tomorrow because I committed to myself being done at 6 o'clock today so that I could be able to spend that time with myself and my family, of course. But the reality of it is that it didn't work like that. I was not able to just show up. I was not able to just easily flow out in the way that I usually am on this Contagious Culture podcast. So what happens when we can't think of the words? What happens when we've been practicing and we're ready, but it's game time and we just can't figure it out? We still show up. The first step for me that I went to, that I want you to write down, and we're going to walk through this together today, is I had to go to prayer. Because I believe that there's a scripture that says, be anxious with nothing, but with prayer and supplication, you'll experience the full peace of God. And why that scripture is so important to me, and God's word is so important to me, because I had to remind myself what I was grateful for. I had to ground myself in his word. And even in that prayer, I asked God for words to be able to use, to be able to speak, for him to speak through me, for me to be able to speak his word, and me to be an embodiment of how he would want me to show up. There's so many times where we are not rooted in something bigger than ourselves, and we give ourselves the permission to have an out. But with me, what I've recognized, especially in this season, is that I've committed something upward that's required me to show up downward. I've made commitments to God that I would show up on a daily basis. I've asked him for the courage, for the boldness, for the strength, for the stamina to be able to continue to show up even when I don't feel like it. There's so many times where coaches, where biblical stories, where leaders didn't feel like going to work, or didn't feel like doing that miracle, or did not feel like doing that or completing that thing or leading that person or showing up to that game. But they had a responsibility to be able to show up. I believe Kobe Bryant said it best, and even Michael Jordan quoted this as well. He said, sometimes people spend their last to come see me play. So every time, this may be the first and last time a person gets to see me play. So I had to show up as my best every single time. If this is your first episode with us, I promise you, if you go back and review episodes, the goal of this podcast is to be able to inspire, to be able to showcase knowledge, to be able to guide you in your journey and your leadership journey, and to be able to ultimately build better systems in schools and mission-driven organizations. But I think a lot of times we don't show up messy. And we always want to show up put together with prompts, with notes, with scripts, and all of these different things, rather than just having an honest conversation about where we're at. So the first step that I went to was prayer. I had to go upward to be able to get filled from him so that the people that I was called to serve and pour into downward can be able to have a message. That's number one. The second step is I had to write. Oftentimes, that feeling of overwhelm comes from a place of procrastination, but not just from a place of procrastination, from a place of clutter. How are we decluttering our minds and decluttering our thoughts on all of the things that are occupying our minds so that we can be able to release it and then put a plan together to be able to deal with all of those things so that we can be able to show up right now in the very moment? Oftentimes, clutter in our minds are the reason that we can't be present in the moment. I'm going to say that again. All of the clutter and mess in our minds are the reason at times that we cannot show up presently in the moment. So what did I do? I had to go to my journal right here, and I had to write down all of the things that were going on in my mind. Client projects that we had to fulfill, specific notes from the meetings that I had earlier, podcast episodes that I had to record, the information from my son's teacher that she just gave me in a conversation that I need to have with my son, a new workout routine and a diet regimen that I needed to be able to get on so that I can start to shed some weight, a marathon that I wanted to be able to run by the end of this year, some goals that I wanted to be able to achieve, some financial metrics that I needed to be able to achieve. I looked at my stock portfolio at the wrong time and saw that the market was down in certain areas. So all of these things were occupying my mind, and I was trying to throw darts with a blindfold and hit one of those targets. And I was wondering why I wasn't hitting anything, because I wasn't focusing on anything at all. So the first step was prayer. And I believe and I've learned this, pray first in all situations. Now, this is not a spiritual podcast. And again, this is just my message to you. I had to go to prayer first, and then I had to journal second. Once I journaled, I had to make a decision to show up. I am here because I made a commitment. I made a commitment to myself. I made a commitment to God. I made a commitment publicly to the people that I was called to serve. Even if it's uncomfortable, a lot of times what happens is that we get paralyzed by perfection. I had 8 different episodes that I could have shot. The notes are already written. The titles are mapped. And all it would have required from me is to be able to read through it, talk through it. But I tried that, and it wasn't through my authentic voice. So I wanted to be able to speak through my authentic voice. And again, that's why we just rolled the camera and we're just showing up. What I will tell you right now is hurry up and get your worst out now. I'm going to say that again. Hurry up and get your worst out now. So my first step that I talked about was prayer. My second step, again, was to journal. Declutter your mind. The third step was to decide and act. And then the fourth step, again, like I continue to talk about, is get the worst out quickly. Get the worst out right now. Even though we're on episode 55 of the Contagious Culture Podcast, we don't currently have mics. We don't currently have a beautiful studio. We're using lights, yes, now. But I told myself that until I committed to coming out with 100 episodes, I wasn't going to invest in mics, and I wasn't going to invest in beautiful software and all of these different things, because how many times, and if you're listening to me and if you're watching the live video, I want you to put a comment. And if this is you, how many times have you committed to something, told people, bought all the equipment, whether it was the camera, whether it was the new journal, whether it was a new computer, whatever it is, and you started doing it and then you stopped? And then that stuff went in boxes, and then it's under beds or in closets or in bins in a garage or a storage unit. You never continued. So what about setting a goal to be able to get those things? When you make your first $10,000, then you hire this person. When you commit to a certain amount of activity, then you go do that thing. So for me, I set certain parameters for me to be able to reward myself. Now, this isn't consequences by any means, but I wanted to be able to showcase to myself that I was not just capable, because we're all capable, but I was committed enough to not just what I'm doing, but to the people that I'm serving. To say, like, look, I'm not going to buy a mic. I'm not going to buy equipment for to enhance this podcast. I'm not going to buy a beautiful setup behind me until, one, we clarify the content, and two, we commit and honor our goal. And again, the goal of this year is to be able to put out a podcast episode every single day. So I wanted to show up messy with y'all today. And I believe that it's important as leaders to be able to show up as we are, to be able to give you the courage, to be able to give you the confidence, to be able to give you the boldness, to be able to show up as you are. Stop waiting for a perfect picture. Stop waiting for the photo shoot. Stop waiting for the camera equipment to then set up for you to be able to have that perfect video shoot. Stop waiting for the equipment to come into the mail for you to get started. Stop saying that when I get this, when I do this, when I become this, when I learn this, I'm going to do this, and just start. Get your worst out of the way now. One of the mottos that I am just continuing to live by is, this is my worst and it sets up for my best. This is my worst and it sets up for my best. As long as I'm showing up as my best every single day and getting better every single day and getting sharper every single day and showing up, that's all that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And a lot of times we can't even know how good we are. We don't even know the gaps that we have. We don't even know where we need to grow because we're simply just not showing up enough. I need you to make a commitment today. I need you to make a commitment that that thing that you've been thinking of, that thing that you've been putting off, that thing that you've been procrastinating on, that goal that you've had written down, that aspiration that gets you excited, that passion that you wanted to explore, that opportunity that you wanted to invest in, that coach that you wanted to hire, that email that you wanted to send is going to get done now. I want you to press record on that messy episode. I want you to stop waiting on all of the equipment. I want you to have enough belief in yourself to do it messy. I want you to go up before so that you can have the confidence to pour down. Whether it's believing in God or some form of a higher power, I want you to believe in your gift. I want you to believe in your goals. I want you to believe in your genius. Because a lot of times we're not believing in ourselves. Our gift is that thing that just comes naturally to us. Our goal is that target that we have. Our genius is the way that we just do it differently with our own little sauce on it. And then you have to be willing to grind. You have to be willing to work. You have to be willing to show up even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, and you don't feel like doing it. I made a commitment to you. I said 40 days ago that I would promote and push and publish every single day the Contagious Culture Podcast. I would have a new episode out every single day. And I'm doing that. And I'm not just doing that for you, I'm doing that for me. And I don't want you to just show up tomorrow for the people that you're trying to show up for. I want you to show up for yourself. I want you to write a contract with yourself and actually invest in how good you can actually be. The energy that we bring is the culture that we create. We say that every single episode. So the goal and the energy of what I wanted to bring you today is the energy of commitment, even when it feels inconvenient. The energy of commitment, even when it feels uncomfortable. The energy of commitment, even when I'm tired. The energy of commitment, even when I got bad news today. The energy of commitment, even when I didn't feel like it. The energy of commitment will be able to transform not just the people that you're called to serve, but transform your perspective, transform your patterns, transform your mindset, transform your purpose, transform your profit, transform you in a way that will give you the ability to transforming others. The step-by-step process for me today was pray, and then I had to journal. I had to get all of the things out of my mind that allowed me to be able to just show up, press record, and let's get rocking and rolling. I want you to make a decision today. I want you to make a decision and commit to the thing that you said you were going to commit to, the thing that you've been holding on. What is a goal that you have? I want you to comment below. I want you to write on, if you're watching the live right now, I want you to write, what is the goal that you have? What is the thing that you've been putting off? Because I need you to decide today and take action. The next thing, I want you to get your worst out of the way. I want you to get your worst out of the way. Don't show up with bells and whistles, lights, cameras, backdrops for 2 weeks. I would rather you show up as your authentic, unapologetic self for the rest of the year. My commitment, my agreement with you is that I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to show you, even though it's uncomfortable, even though there's times where I don't even feel like it, even though there's times where I want to be with my family, even though there's times where I just want to sit around and watch movies, even though I want to do other things, I recognize that the why that I've been put on this earth is bigger than me being comfortable in this moment. And I have to be rooted in something bigger than me. I have to be rooted like a tree and planted so that when my fruit is bared, when my time comes, when my opportunity is presented in front of me, I am ready. I am prepared to be able to sow fruit into the people that I was called to sow fruit into. If you got that $1 million that you've been praying for, if you got that speaking engagement that you've been praying for, if you've got that promotion that you've been praying for, if you got that relationship that you've been praying for, if you got that thing that you've been working towards, would you be ready? A lot of times we have these lists of all of these different things that we want. We want this nice car. We want all of these things from other people. We want people that are like this and do this and provide this and experience this and all of these different things. I want you to become that list. I want you to get yourself together mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of the different areas. And you know how you start? It's by taking action. It's by taking those small incremental steps every single day. And even though it may not feel like a big leap, even though it may not feel comfortable, even though you may not even feel like you went far, I would rather go somewhere than not go anywhere. I would rather go one step forward rather than being in the same place looking at other people get further than I am. Your obedience is attached to someone else's destiny. And I hope by me showing up today and recording this episode that you realize the power that you have, that you realize that once you commit and once you are disciplined and once you focus on the goals and the mission and the purpose that you've been called to be able to reach and accomplish in this life, that it's powerful and meaningful, and that someone needs what you have. Someone needs that gift. Someone needs that affirmation. Someone needs that encouragement. Someone needs that skill set that you have. But they can't receive it. They can't experience it. They can't have it unless you give it. So this is your episode to be able to give what you got. And not just give what you got to other people. Give what you got. Woo! Give what you got from someone else. Give what you received and what you've processed, how you've been developed, how you've been processed, how you've been pruned, how you've been stripped, how you've been pulled back to be able to move forward. I think the beautiful thing about a slingshot is that you have to pull it back to be able to move forward. The beautiful thing about a bow and arrow when you're trying to hit a target is the further that you pull it back, the more power comes. The power comes when you are pulled back and it launches you forward. So my goal of this episode is I hope you launch forward. I hope you pull back the things that made you you. I hope you pull back the things that made you strong. I hope you pull back the things that made you valuable. I hope you pull back the things that made you worthy. And you recognize that the energy you bring is the culture that you create. One of the questions that I always leave with is, what culture am I spreading? Culture is everywhere in anything. Make yours worth catching. We'll see you next episode.